I have 9 tips to help you get through IEP season. I know that it is a real thing, and I know that you are really busy during the spring, and so I want to be able to give you the tools to get through it. So first of all, why is there such a big influx of IEPs during this season? The first reason is because you might be intentionally waiting until the spring to have your meetings so that you can have that full year of data and information and progress reports to be able to make decisions for the next school year. It might be that you're having transition meetings. These are meetings where you're moving your student from an elementary building to a middle school building or middle school to high school, and you need to have everyone on board. You need to be ensuring that those supports and those accommodations and modifications and the services are all in place for a different building, because it might be different. They might have different needs at a larger building or just a different building. There might be stairs where there wasn't at elementary buildings. So a lot of different things need to be taken into consideration. This is also a really good time for the parents of your students to meet the new staff, because your parents love you, they trust you, they know that you love and care for their kid. They don't know that other teacher. And so whenever you can bridge that gap for them and introduce them and put a name with a face, this alleviates a lot of stress on your parents' part. And so having these transition meetings sometimes is a requirement by your district, but it's definitely, if it's not a requirement, it should be something that you're doing. Third reason might be that you are considering ESY, and so you have waited until you have all of the data so that you can prove regression, or you can prove a lack of progress that would justify the need for ESY services. Fourth reason is you might be waiting for all of that district data to be coming in so that you can make informed decisions about your IEPs. DIBELS data, iReady, iStation, map testing, anything that your district does to test kids. State assessment, you might have state assessment data, probably not. Why do we give state assessments? Ridiculous. Anyway, different video. The fifth reason is you might be getting a lot of referrals at this time. If you had a student who's going through a tiered system of interventions, they might have gotten to tier 3 and are not making progress, and therefore a special education referral is being made, and you might need to test and possibly place a new student. So you might have those meetings going on. And if you had any of those kids last year, you might be ready for a new meeting this year. So it might just fall during this spring season as well, on top of all of these other meetings that you're scheduling. In addition to all of these IEPs, you've got a lot of other stuff going on as well. You've got field trips coming up. You've got state testing coming up. You've got a lot of spring fever behaviors happening in your classrooms, I'm sure. And we're trying to juggle all these things within our jobs, and now you're going to add all these IEPs in the mix of this. It can get a little bit crazy really quickly. So I have 9 tips to help you get through this. Tip number 1 is to prioritize and plan. Effective planning is more than just getting things onto your calendar. It's making an intentional effort to prioritize the tasks that you have to get done first, second, third. So I'm a very visual person. So I have my phone, I have my Google Calendar, and it pops up the meetings that I have that are coming up. But I need to see it on paper. So I either do a paper calendar or I have it up on my wall, and I'm going to write down everything that's due within the next 2 weeks. So I have 5 meetings. I'm going to make sure and do that. And then I'm going to break all of those down and put in actual steps of what I need to get done. So if I need to give Johnny a probe, I'm going to put that on my calendar. If I need to send out an input form to a teacher, I'm going to put that on my calendar. I just want to get myself very organized before I head into this season, because once you're in it, it gets a little crazy and you might forget something. Tip number 2 is to streamline these processes. So your efficiency in your documentation and your preparation can save you an immense amount of time. And what this looks like is, so say you have 5 IEPs, I would get 5 different folders and I would keep them close by at all times. And on the front of those folders, I would put sticky notes of everything that I need to do. And you need to do the same thing for each 5. So I would schedule all 5 of those meetings at the same time. I would send out all 5 parent input forms at the same time. I would send out all 5 teacher input forms at the same time. I would collect data around the same time. I would talk to paraprofessionals about the students at the same time. And you're systematically collecting everything that you need in order to be able to write that IEP. And if you're doing this in a very systematic way, it helps alleviate some stress. So you're not thinking, oh, did I forget something? Or waking up in the middle of the night and thinking, I forgot to send Johnny's form home to his parents. No, wait, I did that. No, wait, that was Jesse's. And you get really confused. So if you have a system in place, you will not forget as near as many things. I'm not going to promise that you're not going to forget anything, but you're going to forget a lot less. Tip number 3 is to set boundaries. Now, this is going to look a little bit different for you versus another teacher. You might need to tell yourself, I'm going to come into school a little bit early so that I can leave right at the bell to go pick up my kids. And that'll give you some quiet time in the morning when you can focus on paperwork. For me, it's a little bit different. I'm an empty nester, so I work all the time. I find work fun. Look, I'm making videos for you because I love to work and I love to share knowledge. But when I had girls at home, I didn't do any of those things. I didn't bring home paperwork because I didn't want to take that time away from my family. So whatever works for you, you need to be intentional about making a plan. So whether that's turning off your emails on your phone whenever you get home so that you set that boundary, whether it's you have a specified workplace and a work time and you tell your family, I've got an hour, I need to knock out some stuff, please don't bother me. Whatever it is that works for you, you need to communicate that to your family and to your colleagues at work. These limits that you give yourself are going to be able to help you recharge, which is so vitally important when you are in a busy season like this. When you get stressed and get down, it just starts snowballing. It's that snowball effect. So make sure that you're setting those boundaries and communicating what they are with others. And to help you stay in that off-duty part of your day, I make sure and write everything down that I have to do for the next day or what's coming next so that I get it all out of my brain and be able to forget about it until the next day. So jot down everything that has to happen the next day and then walk off and forget it. Tip number 4 is to delegate when possible. Now, this isn't just offloading work. It is truly being intentional about asking others for help. It's about building a supportive team, whether that's your team at school, whether that's your partner at home. You need to delegate and ask for help. Identify tasks that your paraprofessionals can help you with, whether that's helping you prepare for lessons, making copies that you need, or managing some classroom activities, planning an art project that they can do with the students while you're doing paperwork. During this busy time, you're going to need to depend on others. And so that's hard for me. I'm pretty much, I just want to do it all myself kind of person. And so I really have to be intentional about asking for help when I need it. And make sure that your staff understands that you're not being a slacker. You are truly working on paperwork and trying to get it done and that you need their help. And this can really be a pretty good team builder because it shows that you are trusting them more and that you are asking for their help and you're fostering a more collaborative environment to where they can help you out. Tip number 5 is mindfulness breaks. Now, I'm not a woo-woo kind of person, but mindfulness is a real thing. It's more than just a buzzword. It's an actual tool to help you manage stress. So I want you to implement small pieces of mindfulness every day. So whether it's when you wake up in the morning and you're doing some kind of mindfulness activity, or whether you're a spiritual person and you're, taking time to read the Bible, doing some stretching exercises, taking deep breaths, whatever that looks like for you, be intentional about it. Sometimes it's just a moment of silence, just helping you center your thoughts, and it's decreasing your stress. Journaling is another form of mindfulness, and I'm not, as much as I like to write, I'm not a journaling person, but I do sit in my car either on the way to school or the way home, and I talk things out, and I'm I'm reflecting on the day, talking about what I need to get done tomorrow, or I'm focusing on the good things that happened during my day or what I could have done different. Um, Sometimes I'll call my daughters and I'll tell them everything that I accomplished during that day. Like, I'm so proud of myself. I don't think that they're nearly as impressed by me as I am, but it works for me. That's my mindfulness. And so whatever that is, whatever that looks like for you, just make sure that it's intentional. Tip number 6 is physical activity. Now, I'm not talking about going to the gym for an hour and a half and doing a hard aerobics exercise program. I'm not talking about Pilates for 45 minutes. I'm talking about 10, 15-minute quick breaks where you're getting out of your chair, you're taking a walk around the building, you are doing some light stretching, you're doing some light yoga. Physical activity is it's a proven stress reliever. And when you're sitting in a chair all day and your shoulders are slumped and you are just mentally exhausted, getting up and having that physical activity and getting that oxygen to your brain is going to help you so much. Tip number 7 is to connect with peers. Sometimes we just need, you've heard the saying, misery loves company. Sometimes we just need to know that somebody else is in the same boat that we're in. So whether you are working or you're collaborating and talking to teachers within your building or your district, or it's online, reach out and find somebody who's going through the same thing at the same time as you. These connections can provide both professional insights as well as emotional support. So sometimes just knowing that somebody else is in that sinking boat with you, you're to the point where you're like, we're either both going to get through this or we're both going down with the ship, but either way we're together. It's that kind of camaraderie that we need in our jobs right now at this time of the school year. And number 8 is to celebrate small wins. So whether you pat yourself on the back with after finishing a tough IEP meeting, or you reward yourself for getting an IEP completely written and ready to go before the meeting, whatever that looks like for you, just celebrate those small wins. I had a teacher the other day call me and ask if she could send a kid up to my office to read to Tucker. Tucker's my therapy dog. And of course, I let him come up and read to Tucker. We read about zombies, and Tucker just loved learning about zombies. But as much as it did for the kid and it boosted his confidence and it made his day, it was also a win for me because I got to step away from the drudgery of paperwork and I got to celebrate with this little boy and his accomplishment. And sometimes you've got to find those small things throughout your day to be able to remember that not everything's bad. And the last one is number 9, to utilize IEP tools. Sometimes we forget that we don't have to recreate the wheel every single time we write an IEP. With the use of IEP goal banks or templates or sentence stems, there's a lot of things out there that we can use to help us be more efficient. And one of those tools is the impact statement resources that I've created. This was an area that I really struggled with when I was a teacher because I didn't know what to write in those sections. I didn't know what they were asking, and no one had ever told me exactly what they wanted me to put in those sections. And so I felt like I wasn't sounding very professional, and it bothered me. And so I kind of dug into that, and I did a lot of research about what is exactly wanted in that section. And I found out that the impact statement basically is the statement that writes the rest of the IEP. When you have a good PLAF statement with strengths, weaknesses, needs, current performance, and how it impacts the student in their general education setting, the rest of the IEP just kind of writes itself. It tells you what supports are needed. It tells you what services are needed. It tells you what areas to support the kid in. It helps you with accommodations and modifications. All of those things come from that impact statement, or should. And so if you are looking to enhance your ability in this area, I do have a free step-by-step guide to writing personalized IEPs. It's just everything that you need to write impactful and effective and compliant impact statements within your PLAF areas. If you want that, you can go to www.spedproject.com prepacademy.com/impact statements and be able to get that, get your hands on that. It'll be sent straight to your email. And in it is just a wealth of information on how to do this better, because I don't want you to struggle like I did. So let's recap. First one, prioritize and plan. Number 2 is streamline your processes. Tip 3 is to set boundaries. Tip 4 is to delegate when possible. Tip 5 is to take mindfulness breaks. Tip 6 is physical activity. Tip 7 is to connect with peers. Tip 8 is to celebrate those small wins. And tip 9 is to utilize IEP tools. As we navigate this season of IEPs, I want you to remember that your well-being is just as important as your professional responsibilities. Implementing these strategies can lead to a more balanced and fulfilling career in special education.